Before we get started, just a reminder that you can find all of my available rental properties on my website at marcguzman.com. If you own investment property, click on the Owner Services section to see our complete list of services. Thank you to our sponsor for today's episode, East Brother Beer. Located on Canal Boulevard in Point Richmond, East Brother Beer mixes classic brewing styles with precision and modern sensibility to create the perfect Bay Area craft beer. If you tell someone that your job entails dancing with a pole for money, those people will probably draw up a few assumptions about what you do for a living. But pole dancing is quickly rising as a popular method of getting in shape. Our guests today are Amy Bond and Karri Becker. Together, they run Oakland Pole and Dance, an extension of San Francisco Pole and Dance, where anyone, regardless of gender or sexuality, can come and feel safe to express themselves and work their bodies. So, Amy, Karri, thank you for being on the podcast. Thanks for coming out.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, so this is going to be a great, fun episode. And before we jump into it, I do want to thank East Brother Beer Company. They're our beer sponsor here. So,
it's delicious
cheers,
beer.
And hopefully you enjoy the beer.
Mm-hmm. Cheers to
them. So let's get started. Let's get into the background and how Oakland Pole and Dance came about.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Cool. Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
So I started my first pole dance studio, San Francisco Pole and Dance, in May of 2016. And part of the reason that I really wanted to open a studio was I was really just scratching my own itch, right? Like, I love pole dancing. I'd been doing it at that point for 6 years, competed in pole dance competitions, had been teaching for 3 years, and there wasn't a really good studio in the San Francisco Bay Area. There was a really good studio over in Pleasanton, but in order to get there, I had to take BART and then walk 2 miles and then do all of that coming back. So I would spend all Saturday going to the studio in Pleasanton, and I didn't really have the time to do that any other day. And I wanted to be pole dancing every day. It's literally my favorite thing in the world.
That was literally the nearest place? Pleasanton?
Yeah, Pleasanton was the nearest place that would do more than just an introductory class or a intermediate class. At that point, I was competing in advanced pole dancers. So it's we need to make a pole community in San Francisco. And at that point, I had just graduated from law school. When I moved to San Francisco, I took the California bar, became an attorney, started working at tech startups as in-house counsel, and was doing that and operations, working for all of these startups. And I did that for 4 years. And one thing that was awesome about that experience is that I got to see how really fast-growing companies scale their businesses. And so then when it was my turn to start a business and it started to grow really fast, I kind of had a framework of how to do it and how to scale quickly along with my client base. Backtracking to May, we opened San Francisco Pole and Dance in 2016. Our first month, we had 100 people walk into our studio. And then the second month, we had 300 people walk into the studio. And it kept just growing really quickly. By December, 6 months after we started, I signed a lease on a bigger space that was twice as big and also in our building. And now, over a year plus after that second expansion, where we just signed a lease to expand again for the second time at our San Francisco location.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because all these people who I worked with in tech were like, oh, so you're just going to quit tech and go start a pole dance studio? One of my friends goes, that almost sounds as crazy as opening a restaurant. Good luck. Have fun failing at that. And I think at the time, everyone was kind of there was this mentality of well, you can't really make money at owning a pole dance studio. Dance and artistic endeavors are things that are passion projects, is what a lot of studio owners would tell me. Just remember, it's a passion project. It's not something you'll actually make money at. And within 6 months, I was making money at it. And now I'm making good money at it. So,
That's a mind frame a lot of people have when it comes to business, especially when things are like creative and like
right.
passion, right? Some
Mm-hmm.
certain passionate things. And that's something that a lot of people really have to get away from because you can make money. You can turn it into a very successful business.
Yeah.
You just have to figure it out and figure out what works. And you
Mm-hmm.
had the advantage of working at a tech company and
Yeah.
just really seeing how they grew.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things that that I really learned from working in tech was how many more customers will sign up for the thing you're offering if you make it really easy for them to do that. So, if you go to a bunch of, there are a lot of fitness and dance and artistic studios in the world. And a lot of them don't really believe in spending money on technology or software. So,
Mhm.
that I know a friend who owns a pole studio and she doesn't use software because she doesn't want to pay for the software. So she sits at a desk collecting cash for all of her classes. And now you have the mess of having to account for cash and dropping it off at the bank. And if people don't know that they're signed up, they probably aren't going to come. And
And
so,
the time money spent of sitting there.
yeah, exactly. So,
That's literally what I have to explain to people in property management all the time. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, you could do it yourself and save $100,
yeah.
or you can hire a management company and they take care of everything for you.
Exactly. So I see tech as and like software and the capability of software, especially for fitness studios. There's MindBody and then there's also Perkville and there's all these other pieces of software. Drift we use for our chatbot on our website that make the customer experience so much better and so much easier and streamlined. And taking friction out of the process is what's going to get people to sign up. And so, tech is kind of like my management company, if you will,
Yeah.
in that they make it easy for me. I get to sleep at night, and they make it easy for my customer, and so more customers sign up.
Well, that's the beauty about technology these
Hmm.
days is that more and more as bots come out,
Yeah.
and then very soon we're going to start seeing artificial intelligence come out, and then that incorporating into the bots. I mean, there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a big boom of small business owners
Hmm.
just opening up, like maybe focusing more on certain passionate
Hmm.
careers and really using AI and the bots to really just automate a lot of the process
Yeah.
that they can then just focus on what they love to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's really been the takeaway for me is as much as I can buy technology to do the boring shit that I don't want to do myself, the better.
Yeah.
And like even my accounting company is a technology driven accounting company. They're called Bench and they're $135 a
I
month.
love bench.
I love
Yep.
Bench. And the graphs are really pretty,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's $135 and I know so many people are like, I don't want to pay an accountant. I'll just do it through QuickBooks. I'm like, that sounds so that sounds so annoying. I don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah. So, Karri, at what point did you end up uh, joining Oakland Pole and Dance?
Well, I ended up joining Oakland Pole and Dance before Oakland Pole and Dance became Oakland Pole and Dance, and we synced up even before San Francisco was a thing.
Yeah.
Amy and I met many years ago in Virginia.
Yeah.
And then the world just brought us back together again here in San Francisco. I used to own a pole dance studio in Northern Virginia and sold it to move here to San Francisco because I also saw the opportunity in San Francisco that there was no pole community. So having been here, fell in love with the city, and then putting it together with there's no pole community and that opportunity of building something amazing in the Bay Area, I had to jump on that when I had the opportunity. So I moved here. And life had a different path for me, so I was delayed in that. But then Amy and I synced up, and I worked with Amy at San Francisco Pole and Dance for a while, and then a year ago,
I think a year ago.
we started
now, working at Spaces.
There was this hey,
Yeah.
we should maybe look at some opening another location, and I was like, huh. We should.
Yeah.
And then we like, all right, let's get the feeler out there for what the spaces are, and then decided to put the pause button so that we could focus on staff and get all the ducks in order so that we had the time availability to do it and do it right. And then we started looking at spaces again and found the perfect space in the perfect kick-ass location, if I may.
Yeah, our location's amazing.
It's
We're
pretty awesome.
We're at 366 Grand Avenue, right across the street from Lake Merritt, where like there's like
The geese and the
Yeah,
duck
yeah.
sanctuary, the bird
the
sanctuary.
bird sanctuary. There it is.
Yeah.
You know those birds.
The location is beautiful, and the neighborhood and the community is so accepting and
Yeah.
just fantastic community. We're very fortunate to find the space that we did, and so we jumped on it.
Yeah,
And,
it's actually really hard to find spaces in the East Bay that don't have residential on top of them. So we looked at a bunch of spaces but they all had like really low ceilings if there was no one above them, and then there was really big spaces with people who own apartments above them, and so our selection was actually quite limited, and we didn't think we were going to find that great of a space. And then
Is there a reason why you did not want space with residential above it?
Yeah, so if you play loud music, you know those people are calling the police.
It's just a recipe for problems.
Yeah.
So how many locations do you have right now?
Oakland is our second.
Second. So San Francisco and Oakland.
San Francisco, and expanded San Francisco, and now the third expanded San Francisco that we're working on right now is our first location, and Oakland's our second.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that we do here on the podcast is we interview a lot of local people and their
cool.
businesses, their passions,
Yeah.
and why they want to be here in the Bay Area. And it's interesting that, Karri, you came from Virginia, right?
Yeah.
And then decided to open up shop here, team up with Amy. And what's been for you like the best thing about the Bay Area?
So I would say the thing that really made me fall in love with the Bay Area is its spiciness. It's so unique. The people are unique. The buildings are unique. The area is beautiful. It's just has this vibe and this feeling, and I am intoxicated on it, and I just love it. It's accepting of everybody, of every backgrounds and choices, and you are who you are, and I love you and accept you that way. And that's what I get from San Francisco. San Francisco has always been like, Karri, I love you, bless your heart,
Yeah.
you're one of us.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about San Francisco.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
about you?
I mean, I just think everybody here is such a freak, so I
Okay,
fit
that's
right
the other way
in.
of putting it.
It's
Everybody's
amazing.
so fucking weird in their own way, and I love that.
You know what? That's so true. It's very funny, like when you go outside of the Bay Area, how much you realize the Bay Area is such a bubble.
Oh, yeah.
Like even within California itself.
Well, yeah, you drive
Totally.
from San Francisco to LA, and you go through like, oh, that's what the rest of America is.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love it, but San Francisco is just everybody's trying weird things. You know, I went to law school in Boston right before I lived in San Francisco, and Boston is a cold place. It's a beautiful place, but it's freezing cold. The people are a little cold, and there's a little bit more of like a social hierarchy on the East Coast than I think there is on the West Coast. And in San Francisco, I think because there's so much tech and companies that are failing all the time, that there's this sense of like it's okay to fail. Whereas
It humbles you, right?
yeah, it humbles you. And also, people are down to go get coffee. If I need something, I'll put a call on Facebook. Hey, I'm looking to pick somebody's brain about X, Y, and Z. I got like DMs. Oh, hey, I know somebody who I can introduce you to who can help you with that. Or, I tried to do a tech startup before San Francisco Pole and Dance that was going to be like on-demand fitness. And I had so many people who had started companies, failed at starting companies, succeeded at starting companies, and, oh, hey, let me introduce you to this other person. And the hierarchy of the social order feels much more flat in the Bay Area than it does on the East Coast. And I love that kind of accessibility. I can talk to anybody about anything here where and like really in a really open way. I don't have to be buttoned up about it. Whereas on the East Coast, I didn't really get that sense as much that everybody was accessible.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see that in just the environment, the atmosphere, and the ambiance of the tech companies,
Mhm.
Silicon Valley. I mean, you're talking about multimillionaires that are running tech firms that are 20 years old,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's completely different to what the norm always was, where it was someone in a suit, 50 years old,
Hmm.
tied to Wall Street somehow,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
100%. I was talking to a tech founder the other day. This guy's a billionaire, but you never know it by looking at him. He's in dirty jeans and a hoodie, just chilling on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. It's a dream right there.
So to expand Oakland Pole and Dance,
Hmm.
when you started to get a lot of people coming in
Yeah.
and you had to scale up, what was the number one lesson that you learned from the tech companies in order to scale up quickly?
At San Francisco Pole and Dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many. I think one of the things that I didn't realize at the beginning was that even though you can scale your process, you can't scale your people. So you've got to really like be there holding people's hands when you're training new instructors, when you're sharing information about change. Like I was very much of a move fast and break things kind of mentality because that's the way I had done things when I was doing operations at startups. And I wasn't I was surprised by how much people just want to be kept abreast of the changes that are happening, and keeping people abreast of things will make them feel much more comfortable even if things are changing really quickly. And so the amount of communication that I needed to be constantly giving my team, I don't think I had realized how important that was to team morale and just making people feel really good about their jobs. So when we scaled, I think I didn't immediately tell my studio team that we were moving into a larger space because I wanted to make sure that the poles would actually go in it and that it wasn't a false alarm and all of that. And then people felt like, wait, why are you keeping information from me? And so I've become much more transparent with like all the nitty gritty details of things that are happening in the business so that people feel really good that they're a part of it and they're a part of the growth. What about you?
Well, I think communication, absolutely, and being able to work with those people individually. So, like, everybody's personalities are different, and
Mm.
and even though you like to communicate in one very specific way, right? This is how I work. Well,
Hmm.
you kind of have to realize, oh, I can't communicate with that person that way or this person that way, and that even though it's more efficient for you to just maybe be direct or
Email,
something.
text, or something.
Exactly. And then you start to grow into, oh, I need to kind of, slow it down or take it back with this person or that person. And
But also to add on to that, like having a process for the way you communicate and then sticking to that process really matters when you go from having 10 employees to having 50 employees, because you can't just be like, oh, well, that person likes text, so I'll text them.
yeah,
No, you need to use Slack. That's what we use for internal communication. If you don't like it, then this probably isn't the right place for you, and our studio has not been the right place for some instructors. And it's
yeah,
been a great place for most of our instructors. But, I manage 45 artists. That's a lot of
Wow.
people doing a lot of things. And it's a creative personality that's constantly working on new projects. And so answering email isn't like a strong point for a lot of those people. It's not, like I have one instructor who only looks at email on a Wednesday. And that's it. That's her email day. I'm like, that's amazing. But I wouldn't be able to run my business if I only looked at email on Wednesday. So,
So that's where Slack comes into play.
that's where Slack comes into play. And that's where we go to keep our entire team on the same page of all the things that are happening. And now that we have a flexibility program and an aerial program and a pole program, we have different channels for those people so that everybody's not overwhelmed by all the things happening.
So how many people are on staff?
Yeah, I have 48 employees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
And then
amazing.
Karri is my general manager at Oakland, and Josh is my general manager at San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of people.
And you're going to hit 3-year anniversary in May this year, right?
Exactly. Oh my
Wow.
gosh, 3 years. That's amazing.
Wow. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
really good
you.
growth.
Yeah.
business.
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, now when I think about all the people who are like, good luck with that pole dance studio that's definitely not going to go anywhere, I'm
They're
like,
probably signing up though now for classes.
yeah. But yeah, it's like, people are always going to be like, oh, that's not possible. You can't do it. And then you do it. And then people are like, oh, I always believed in you.
Yeah.
It's nothing better than showing them.
Yeah,
Not
you got to
doing
show it. You got to
showing
show
them
it.
that it's
So what are the goals or what are the plans for the future?
Yeah, my big focus for 2019 is I'm going to create a franchise model. So part of that is there's a bunch of SEC filings that you have to do in order to even be franchisable. And then working with Josh and Karri at Oakland and San Francisco Pole and Dance for really defining our processes for every little thing that happens. I'm sure you've read, what's that book called? There's this book that talks about how the reason McDonald's can scale so well, not that I love McDonald's, but they're, a business that has done a good job at franchising. And there's a book with pictures that show you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So any asshole can come into a McDonald's and learn how to deep fry French fries in like 4 minutes. And so that's kind of where I want to get our processes. It's like, can anybody come in and look at this handbook and here are the 6 steps for selling a membership?
Oh, so they provide a handbook for each employee that's required to run a McDonald's.
Yeah.
Basically, here's how you do the entire job.
Here's how to do every single piece of this. Exactly. And so that's the work that we're doing right now at the 2 studios we already have. What are the problems we run into? What are the challenges? What are the things we see often? Even edge cases, if you don't have them documented, they might seem like they don't happen that often, but a lot of times things that seem out of the ordinary actually happen quite often. And documenting the process for how to resolve those things that are slightly out of the ordinary, and then being able to hand that book to someone else and say, here's how to do what we do. And by the way, I'll work with you for the first 6 months on getting you up and running and scaling and working with my vendors who I trust and I know will do a good job because they've done a good job for me in the past. And then building out like the process for this franchise model is my work for 2019. And then hopefully having franchise partners in 2020. I hope to open, 3 more pole and dances.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Wow.
So
ambitious model, but that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Oakland Pole and Dance.
Yeah,
let's
please.
talk about the classes. Let's talk about just really what someone can do there at Oakland Pole and Dance.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as classes, we have a little bit of everything for everyone. So we have obviously pole dance classes. We have a variety, scalable from intro all the way up to advanced competitor level classes. We have sexy exotic classes. We have Russian exotic and then sexy dance classes and pole choreography classes. We also have a chair dance, an exotic chair dance class called Hot Seat. And which is one of my favorites because I teach
with
that.
3 T's.
With 3 T's because it's extra hot. And then we also have aerial classes. We have aerial fabric, we have aerial hoop, and we have aerial straps classes. And in addition to that, we have active flexibility classes that not only is a great workout, but it's going to help increase your flexibility tremendously.
Yeah, I know someone who does the aerial.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a very hard workout. I mean, it like you're using a lot of your core muscles and I guess the balance and everything. It's impressive to see.
Yeah, so aerial is a great workout. I absolutely love it. The really great thing that I love about our program and our instructors is that we make aerial, any type, achievable for anybody of any fitness level. So you can have somebody who's never worked out a day in their life come in and take one of our classes and find success and challenge in our classes. And that's something we really pride ourselves on.
Yeah.
So someone who is not familiar with any of this, They walk in. What do you recommend for them to start with?
Well, we recommend our new student 3-class pack, which is going to give them a great variety of 3 things.
And a discount on them.
And it gives them, of course, it gives them a great discount over the classes. But they can take a pole class, an aerial class, and a flexibility class for a discounted price, which is what we recommend doing. And that way you get a great variety of all of the things we have to offer.
You kind of get a taste of each one. I think a lot of people come in thinking, "Oh, pole dancing, that's not for me. I'll never do that." And maybe they take an aerial class, but they're kind of looking over at the pole space like, maybe I could do that. And then the next class, they can sign up for a pole class. And then cross-train using flexibility work. So
you're sitting in your office just watching everyone eventually make their way from one side to the other, right?
I mean, when you say my office, I mean the flexibility mat. I usually be in like a split on yoga blocks, like looking out from behind a laptop, but that's my office. And I wouldn't have it any other way, actually.
That's what we call active flexibility.
So are there monthly memberships, or do people just sign up for classes and pay for the classes?
Yeah,
directly?
so we want to make it accessible for everyone, and so we offer everything from single time drop-ins to class packages where you can buy a set of 5, 10, 20 classes, or you can get a membership. We have unlimited memberships to where they can take as many classes as their heart desires or that their body can handle. And it includes open studio access, so they literally get keys to the castle to where they can come into the studio, let themselves in and out as they like to, practice, train, throw a laptop up and do work, whatever they like to do. It's their home as well, so we have a little bit of everything for everyone.
So roughly how many clients or people do you have show up on a monthly basis?
Well, that number keeps changing, and since Oakland's only 6 weeks old, it changes week to week. So in November, I think we opened on the 10th, and we had about 120 people walk into the studio. And then in December, we had almost 300 people walk into the studio, which for a new studio that just opened in December is actually pretty remarkable and really mirrors the same growth rate that I saw at San Francisco. This month we'll probably have close to 500 people walk through our doors. So we're growing really quickly. So what last month's number is very different from this month's number, and on probably for the next year or so.
Yeah. My girlfriend, she owns a gym here in Hercules, and one of the things that I've seen that I really admire about like gyms and different fitness places is the community. How people get together, they meet other people, they support each other, and it's amazing how quickly they become friends. And then before you know it, they're hanging out together, like off-site, house parties, that sort of thing. I would imagine the community at Oakland Pole and Dance is very similar.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely. I mean,
for us, I like to always say, like, build the community and the money will follow. And that's been the hypothesis that I've really run my businesses by. I think that there's a lot of research about how people's need to be a part of a community has kind of grown over the past 10, 20 years because now we are online so much more. And we think we're more connected, but we don't feel physically as connected as maybe we once did. And creating a place, especially a place where people are literally holding each other's butts up in the air so that they don't fall, creates this sense of trust, like, really fast. So, in the pole world, we use this phrase pole wives. And, that's not specific to women. Actually, women, men, and everything in between can be a pole wife or have a pole wife. But a lot of our students, and I've had multiple pole wives, find like one person who trains the same way they do, or maybe trains at the same time, or they're working on similar goals. They're both competing in a competition soon. And so they kind of glom onto one person, and that's their pole wife, and that's who they train with, and that's who they go to get choreography help if they're not working in one-on-one with an instructor. And I just love seeing those relationships spring up, because it will eventually happen to everybody who's on some kind of like pole or aerial or flexibility journey. Is they'll find that one person who they're like, you're my pole wife. You know? And it's so cute. And so there's these little like smaller groups within the larger community, and that just makes the bigger community much stronger.
And it's amazing seeing those relationships develop.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. And that's you had said that's one of your favorite things, is finding that community, that pole community out here, and mine too. And I think I speak for you probably here, but that's one of the things that really made us fall in love with pole fitness and aerial fitness, is that community and that sense of having a second family.
Yeah. I'd say, too, the thing about pole that's slightly different from the rest of the dance world is that it's a really body-positive sport. So I think we've had many students who were ballerinas growing up, and they always felt like they had to be a certain size in order to do ballet, or they had to fit into a mold that maybe their body just didn't fit into in order to do their sport. And in pole, you know, it's like doing gymnastics on a metal object to a certain extent, and gymnast bodies are a little bit more meaty than a traditional ballerina body. And so you find every body size in our studio: big, middle, small, extra big, extra small. Like, they're all there, and they're all working on similar things. And I think that body positivity makes us a much more inclusive space, because pole is just that kind of sport.
Now, as you keep growing and expanding and eventually doing franchises, keeping that community together becomes tougher and tougher.
Yeah, that's really true.
How do you scale that?
Yeah, I think part of it is keeping like the local flavor. So if it was one studio that just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, then it's harder to scale the community aspect within that really big space. But if you do a little space over here and a little space over here and a little space over here, you still can kind of keep that almost like tribe mentality, that like the small locations help to keep people really close and seeing each other often. So
I guess at some point you can even do competitions within each location, right?
Oh, that would be awesome. That's such a good idea.
That would be great. The pole and dance international competition.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You just kind of blew my mind, actually. I'm like, yeah, we could.
Ooh, that would
if
be
you
a
have
fun
enough,
little rivalry.
Yeah.
Regional, international, open up franchises in Canada, Mexico.
Yes.
So we're now doing a different segment where we spin a wheel and we pick a couple topics here.
Okay.
And we just randomly...
That's my idea.
Yeah,
I
this
love
is
it.
Sam's idea.
Fun. Is it going to go on here?
Are we going to have it up here, or you're just going to spin the wheel and then...
Spin it on the computer.
Oh,
there we
it
go.
is.
Oh, hey.
Dumbest lie you believed as a kid.
Oh, God, I know
Oh,
this off
man.
the top of my head.
I gotta think.
So people are going to be mad at me when I say this. It's okay. It's really true. So growing up, my mom told me that if I ever wanted to be a cheerleader, I would have to have half of my brain removed. And until I was like 14, I would see cheerleaders at school and feel so sad for them, because I believed that they had half their brain like actually removed in like an operation, and I'd be like, oh my God, those poor women who had to get lobotomized. It's so sad. I never want to be like that, And then it dawned on me like, oh, my mom was kidding.
So as soon as this question popped up, I also have a mom story too.
Yes, moms
And
are the
moms,
best.
yeah. So when you have kids, you're trying to rush out, and all of a sudden, one of them has to use the bathroom.
Oh God.
Right?
Yeah.
They could have used the bathroom the entire time before that, but it's not until you're rushing out.
Yeah.
So to rush us along, my mom would tell us, don't be on the toilet too long because your butt's going to fall off.
Oh my God. That's terrifying.
It is,
butt's
right?
gonna
So
fall out.
it's like, oh, okay, I'll make this quick. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, but that's basically how she would rush us along.
So you were in and out of that bathroom.
Correct.
I love that.
What about for you?
All right. Recently I lost my grandfather. And he used to play this trick on me all the time when I was a kid.
What did he do to you?
So I forget exactly which finger it is. I think it was like his pointer finger on his right hand, but he lost the end of it. Like it got removed somehow.
Oh.
And I didn't know it. And he would always do this like trick where he would like hide it with his other finger and then he would like make it come off. And so he's like taking his finger off and then putting it back on and taking it off and putting it back on using his other finger. And so for the longest time, I thought he could actually magically like remove half of his finger and then reapply it. And here the whole time he was just like had no top to his finger. And I didn't know that.
That's a clever way to do that trick, actually.
Yeah, he like
That
had
is.
this, he like did this thing. It's hard to explain, but it was awesome. And it had me mesmerized as a child.
You were like,
That's
how do I
funny.
take mine off?
How do I get mine to do? I'm like trying to remove my finger.
That's really cute.
That's funny.
I was told as a kid that if you watch TV too long, your head will turn square.
Your
Not
head
proud-
will turn square.
Not proud of how long I believed that one. But,
That's funny.
like coming out of a movie, sometimes I actually will like check my head. Like
You're like, oh, okay, I'm good.
I was in front of
It's
the
there.
screen for a long time. Like,
Yeah.
am I good?
Aquaman was close to 3 hours. Anything's going to make your head a square.
And who told you that one, Sam?
My mom.
Moms.
It's always moms.
Mom.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
They're so convincing.
They are, but they have a motive. They
Yeah.
have a motive. They just want to mess with you sometimes, I think.
No. My mom was so worried I'd become a cheerleader, and then here I am, I became a pole dancer.
So,
Oh my God.
people that are interested, how can they sign up? What's the website? And, yeah, I mean, how do they sign up?
Great. Well, everything's super accessible through oaklandpoleanddance.com. Everything's transparent. The pricing's there, class descriptions. If they want to reach out to us, they can just hit us up on the chat on the website. And then everything's online. We like to utilize technology to stay efficient for our clients. So they can sign up through online or they can pop by the studio and visit us. We're open every evening and on weekends. Yeah.
Okay. So, open on the evenings, not during the day?
We have a few daytime classes, but
Friday.
the schedule is on the website if they want to check to see when we're going to be present.
Yeah. But we'll definitely be there 5 p.m. in the evenings on
Mhm.
weekdays, and then 9 to 3 on weekends.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And we actually got a lot of people who walk in off the street. You know, in San Francisco, it's a bit more techie, I think. So they're online everything. But in Oakland, they're a little bit more like, no, let's just pop by.
Well, especially that
Yeah.
area. You have a lot of people walking,
Yeah.
running,
Mm-hmm.
and barbecuing at the park. I mean, just
Yeah.
hanging out. Yeah.
Hanging out at the bird thing.
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary
Yeah.
thing.
The bird thing.
Yeah, so it's a good location where you're at there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Whole Foods is
nice.
like 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
The best. I just want to shout out to that Ethiopian restaurant, and Zaro is across the street.
You know, I've been looking for an Ethiopian restaurant. I
Girl,
love
it
Ethiopian
is
food.
so good. It's called Enzaro, across the street from us on
Linzaro?
Enzaro,
Enzaro.
Ensarro,
Okay.
and it's incredible. You can take out, you can sit down, but they're amazing.
So many great restaurants.
many good restaurants
close by
over there.
and coffee shops.
Well, that makes the Bay Area such an amazing place, right?
Yeah.
Just all the
Yes.
food and
All the
I mean,
flavor.
authentic food, and
Oh, yeah.
just all the ideas that people come up with when it comes to food.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is definitely a place to live if you're a foodie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Where's your favorite restaurant? in the
My
Bay Area?
favorite restaurant in the Bay Area
Uh-huh.
or near the Oakland studio?
Bay Area.
Bay Area. I really, really like this Mexican restaurant out in the outer Richmond.
Ooh.
It's called Tia Margaritas because the margaritas are literally like a punch bowl served to you. And you're hoping your food gets there fast because otherwise they're going to have to pick you up off the floor if you keep drinking your drink before your food gets there. It's great.
That's amazing.
So like going back to Oakland Pole and Dance, one of the things that many people associate with pole dancing is strip clubs.
It's true.
How do you educate people to teach them that, hey, there's a lot more to it and it's not always associated with strip clubs?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different styles of pole dancing. I want to just say, like, pole dancing did originate from, like, modern day pole dancing does have its roots in stripping. So I know there's a lot of people who are like, no, modern pole dancing came from the Malakam, which is an Indian type of, wooden pole, but it's much thicker than a pole and it's very gymnastics-y. And other people are like, no, it comes from Chinese pole, which is more acrobatic, and you'll see that in like Cirque du Soleil. And I'm like, not really. Like, the first person to own a pole dance studio in the United States was a stripper. And like the first generation of studio owners were strippers. And so if it wasn't for the strip club industry, I wouldn't own the business I own, which is like my passion and my greatest joy. So cheers to strippers for their amazing work. And, I just used this phrase earlier. A lot of people also say, oh, pole's just gymnastics on a pole. It's very fitnessy. And that's true. It can be very fitnessy, but it also can look like you're fucking the floor, which is personally my favorite type of pole dancing, where you're kind of like sliding and gliding and slinking along the floor. And then maybe you move up the pole and do more acrobatic work. But I love to strap on my 9-inch pair of heels and just fuck the floor. And so, there's so many different styles of pole, and they're all equally amazing, and so many different flavors. So there's something for everyone. But I do think that, like, acknowledging that the roots of our industry comes from people who were strippers is really important, because they've built this industry and they've inspired this industry, and they continued to build a lot of the really cool innovations that are happening in the pole dance industry. So yeah, there are roots in strip clubs, and like, I'm not sorry about that.
How's the perception here compared to Virginia?
Oh,
Great
wow,
question.
That's a fantastic question.
Great question.
So again, San Francisco is very, very open-minded and accepting of everyone and what they do. And, it's like, great, you do that. And awesome, you do that. So San Francisco, here, when I'm here, I tell somebody I pole dance, and they're like, oh, that's awesome, great. I took a class, or I did a bachelorette party or something. We're in Virginia. Virginia, it's a little bit more of a story. Of course, I was closer to D.C., so it's with the political roots there, it's a little bit like, ooh. Especially when I started it 10 plus years ago, when I started taking pole 10 plus years ago, then it was like, oh, so you tell somebody that you take pole dance classes, and they make the assumption, oh, you're an exotic dancer. I'm like, no, I'm not an exotic dancer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I love them, but this is like what I do for fitness, and this is what I do because I love it, and this is what I do because it's building my confidence, and it's great for my body and my soul. And so I get very, very different reactions, which is probably one of the big reasons why I just wanted to get out here, and away from that. Bless their heart, but
yes.
Bless their heart. Now I can imagine it's a little bit more relaxed, especially as when I left, there was a ton of pole dance studios in my area. I think within a 15-minute drive of my studio, there was 10 pole studios.
Really?
Which is really surprising for it being in the suburbs. So the industry was flooded with pole studios out there. And most of them did more of a sensual-based type of dance movement. And the target was, mothers and building confidence and more that, empowerment and things like that. And I found more passion with the competition-driven, teaching tricks and skills and advancing somebody on the more fitness level. So it was a little bit different. But I much love it here because it's interesting. Every once in a while I'll get somebody. Like recently, I was at this wine event, and I got introduced by my host. Hey, this is Karri. She runs a pole dance studio in Oakland, and he was like, "Oh, so you teach the professionals then?" The guy says, and I'm like, "Oh, if by professionals you mean lawyers, doctors, and entrepreneurs, then yeah, you would be correct."
Yeah. Yeah, I love when people say, "Oh, so you teach working girls." I'm like, "Yeah, they work like as engineers, and some of them are strippers, but not very many of them. And I know who the strippers are because they always pay cash." You know?
And not just women too. You have a certain percentage of men that come in, right?
Yeah.
We have male instructors too that teach for us that are phenomenal. They're amazing.
Have male instructors. We also have, the middle ground, like, some days I'm a woman, some days I'm a man, some days I'm neither or I'm both. And,
that's great too.
So we kind of go, it's all genders and everything in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
And
really
honestly,
for everyone.
people who have masculine hormones in their body tend to be really good at pole dancing because they have more natural upper body strength. And so they're just climbing that pole on their first class and,
And we just roll our eyes at them, but we love them.
I'm like, that took me 3 months to
Yes.
learn. So annoying.
Is it really hard to climb up the pole?
I would say an average student would take about 5 or 6 classes, and by the end of the 6th class-ish, and some are less, some are more, they'll get to the top of the pole. But yeah, it's hard. It has a specific technique. And then on top of that, it hurts a little bit. So you got to deal with the pain.
Pole kisses.
Yeah.
Is it like a good hurt or like this is no fun hurt?
Like your skin is being pinched by a metal pole while you put all your weight onto it, kind of hurt. So.
But yet it's also coincided with the, oh my God, I just did this.
Yeah.
So it's like.
The studio in Pleasanton, it's called Twirly Girls. They actually have all of their students write their name on $1, and then once they can climb to the top of the pole, they stick the dollar to the ceiling. So when you walk in, there's like thousands of dollars on the ceiling, and some of them are like decorated with glitter. It's super cute. Yeah.
Very neat.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Yeah, this was our pleasure.
I wish the two of you the best success
Thank you.
with the business, and excited to see when the first franchise ends up coming out.
Yes.
So are we.
Yeah, we are too.
It's a lot of work ahead for both of you.
It
sure.
is.
It'll be fun work though.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Well, thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks
Great.
so much.
Thank you
And
so
hopefully you
much.
enjoyed the beer, and thank you
Thank
to
you.
East Brother Beer Company.
Thank you, East Brother.
East Brother Beer Company. It's delicious.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Thank you to our producer, Sam Lubin. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share the podcast. Remember, you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Google Play, SoundCloud, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. For more information on my business as a property manager and real estate team, go visit my website at marcguzman.com. I really want to thank all of you for listening. It means the world to me, and I hope today's episode provides you value in your day-to-day life. I created this podcast to help showcase the many great people that live in this world and help share some knowledge that I've learned along the way in life. Again, thank you for listening. Check out our sponsors, and I'll catch you on the next episode.